welcome to this mindful meditation. I call it a class, so it's more like an experience. We're going to do it for 3 weeks, and I invite you just to, center yourself, and even as you walk through the door, we have a sign that says to enter in silence, because we want to be fully present to the here and the now, and kind of quiet the noise of the outside world. And this is what we call mindful meditation. I got introduced to this when I was at ministerial school. Oh, my God, 1992 or something like that, by one of my instructors. And I hadn't really settled on a meditation practice, but I found it very helpful to me. And it's just one type that we can use. And I thought if you wanted to learn one or just deepen your practice with mindfulness, it would be helpful to have this. I usually do this every year. So this experience is not an information course. It's really an experience and an opportunity to practice. It'll be very different from all our other kind of courses or programs we have, other than maybe Janae's silence. I know she has her silence meditation on Thursdays, but it'll be kind of Spartan environment. Mostly silence will be part of this experience. Although I'm going to talk a little bit tonight, just to give some background on the mindfulness practice and the benefits, its origins, how we use it. And we'll start at 7, and I have it between 7 and 8:30, but it might be a little earlier, so we just have that option to keep it to that length of time. I just invite you to, maybe if you're just taking it for the first time, I know a few people that have been through this experience with me before in the past, and they may be experienced meditators. But if you're here for the first time, just think about what would you like to get out of this experience for you. And I've always believed that when we set an intention for something, we begin to see and experience everything that we set our intention toward. So just something that you might want to consider as we go through this experience. So what's the objective of this experience we're going to have for the next 3 weeks? Obviously to learn and to practice mindfulness meditation. And if you're observant and check around a lot, you see that this is around quite a bit today. It wasn't as much when I first started back in, I think it was 92, like I mentioned. But I think this is a wonderful thing because it's something that I think our world is sorely lacking. But I think it's starving from something that's elusive but a necessary part of our life. And that is just being still and quiet, because we live in a very noisy world. I noticed that a lot of corporations now, have rooms for meditation and, sometimes even yoga and other things that have been evolving and developing over the years. Even, I think, in the airports, I see not only prayer rooms, meditation rooms, so it's been growing up quite a bit. The actual name of this type of meditation is actually called vipassana, or sometimes referred to as insight meditation. And this kind of meditation is really about, seeing things as they are. Not trying to make it any different than what it is, but just being totally present with what is. And according to history, it was kind of rediscovered or made popular by the Buddha over 2,500 years ago. So it's primarily a Buddhist practice, at least this version of it. But like I said, it's not just an idea, it is a practice. There's lots of different types of meditations, but the primary purpose is to enhance our attention, enhance our awareness, And, there are certain guided meditations. Often on Sundays, you'll have some, maybe Deborah will do a guided meditation and take you through a beautiful garden, or, take you on a little journey, and you kind of focus on that as an approach. There's transcendental meditation, and usually they have a mantra, what we probably call like an affirmation that we focus on. There's a meditation called inquiry meditation, where you just kind of ask questions, or maybe over and over again, to get deeper and deeper into a focus. And, there's walking meditation. Heck, I even think there's running meditation. I don't know how that quite works, but I know people make it work. I was reading some work from a gentleman who's done a lot of research on high performers. And what he found in his research is that 80% of the people who are considered high performers have some form of a meditation practice. Many years ago, when I was just hearing about meditation, it was kind of considered, well, maybe not in California, but out on the East Coast, it was kind of a little woo-woo. But I just remember back in the day that, a very famous basketball player, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, was a meditator and used to meditate before his games, and didn't quite understand it. I had to be in the 70s when I first became aware of his practice. But why should we meditate? I don't know if you can remember the last time, if you've ever laying in bed wrestling with your thoughts, and you somehow wanted your mind to calm down or just be quiet so you could get some sleep. And I don't know if you've had this, I've had that experience, but whatever you tried to do this, the harder you tried, the more difficult it became. And then by that time, the alarm has gone off, you're exhausted, maybe you're bad-tempered, you're maybe feeling miserable, but you got to get up and do what you got to do. And then as you go through the day, you got the opposite problem. You're trying to stay awake, and you can hardly stop yawning. Maybe you stumble into work if you're working, but you're not really present to what's going on. And sometimes it seems as though, our life has begun to slip through our fingers, and maybe we feel more anxious, more stressed, more exhausted than we would like to be. And I believe that meditation, among other things, is about how we can find peace and contentment, and sometimes in our troubled, frantic environment and times, or I would say maybe rediscover them. It's always there, but we have moved away from it. There was a documentary we showed here at Spiritual Lifestyle a few years ago called Heal. And it was talking about individuals who had seemingly miraculous healings in their life. And one of the causes that they saw for a lot of our ailments is stress, and that leads to a sense of dis-ease, or discomfort in our minds and bodies. And the psychological studies have shown that regular meditators not only are healthier, but they're happier and, on average, more content with life. But these are not just important results in themselves, but I think, the medical significance is not to be overlooked. And I think it leads to a longer, healthier life. A lot of folks in our era have a lot of anxiety. Depression is fairly prevalent in our society, and as well as just plain irritability. But all those things seem to reduce from the studies with someone who regularly meditates. It helps our memory improve, helps us react to situations better. Mental stamina is higher, and I think we even have more fulfilling relationships. And so it reduces stress, it reduces hypertension. All of the science is showing that. And it's been a way of reducing even chronic pain. So, there's a lot of myths about meditation that I might want to just share with you. Because despite these proven results, a lot of people think they still should be wary of the word meditation. In some traditions, if you say you're a meditator, they may think that you're some sort of heretic. You're trying to connect with the devil or something like that. I don't quite get that. But there's some other myths that meditation, number one, is at least this meditation is not a religion. Mindfulness meditation or Vipassana is simply a method of mental training. And many people who practice meditation, they may be religious or spiritual, but there are a lot of people who are, at least they consider themselves to be atheists or agnostics, and they're avid meditators. And you don't have to do it in any particular way. You don't have to sit cross-legged on the floor like you see in the magazines and thing, holding your arms in a certain way. You can if you want to, but it's not necessary. And most people, when they come to a meditation class like this, they sit in a chair, but you can practice this anywhere. Sometimes on a plane, for me, I get a little anxious about being on a plane. I seek to get centered with meditation, or walking, somewhere that I need to get centered. So we can do this anywhere. I think that's what makes it so powerful. And it doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes a lot of practice and patience over time to get into that space. And I think for me, I find it helps relieve from the pressures of our days. And when things seem to get topsy-turvy, it brings me right back into seeing it more clearly, whatever I'm facing. So meditation is not complicated. And there's no success or failure when it comes to meditating. Even when we feel like it's difficult, we still have learned something valuable about how our mind works and how we can benefit from it, psychologically. It doesn't deaden our mind. A lot of people think that meditation kind of lulls us into a dead type mind or prevent us from achieving. In fact, the high achievers generally have a high meditation practice. I was reading a while back about a guy named Ray Dalio. He's, for those in the finance area, he's what I call a hedge fund manager. He's like one of the biggest in the world. And they asked him the question, what was the one thing that you would say was most important to your success? Because his company's, billions of dollars. I don't know how many. And he said that the number one thing that was valuable for him earlier on was practicing a form of meditation. So if it was good enough for him and Jesus, it's good enough for me. So what does meditation consist of? Particularly, this meditation is really focusing our full attention to our breath as it flows in and it flows out. Focusing on our breath in this way, what it does is allows us to observe our thoughts as they arise in our mind. And we don't struggle with them, we just observe them. We don't try to make them wrong, we don't try to do anything with them, just be aware of them. And then we come to the realization that the thoughts, eventually they come and they go. And that we realize that we are not our thoughts. We have them. And it's different. Oftentimes we think our thoughts are running us, but we should be the one to really let our thoughts just float on by and realize they don't have to have an impact on our day-to-day experience. So, what we do, we watch as they appear in our mind. And then seemingly they appear out of thin air, and then we watch them for a while, and they seem to disappear like a soap bubble bursting. And I think we come to an understanding that thoughts and feelings, particularly negative ones, they're all transient. They come and go. I think when we're going through them, we think they're going to last forever, particularly if they're not good thoughts or good feelings. But they come and they go. Someone told me that when your thoughts come up, if you let them be, eventually they let you be. They let you be. They just like, they can't stick. They just keep on going through. But if we resist it and fight it or try to make it a certain way, then we give it more power. So mindfulness is about observation. We're not criticizing our thoughts. We're compassionate with ourselves when the thoughts come up. When our unhappiness or our stress kind of hovers, rather than take it personally, we learn to treat them like they're just dark clouds in the sky, and we observe them and with a friendly curiosity until they just drift on past. So in essence, I think mindfulness allows us to catch our negative thought patterns, be aware of them before they tip us over into a deep end or to a spiral. And it begins the process of putting us back in control of our day-to-day life. And I think over time, when we do practice mindfulness, it brings, I think, a long-term change in our mood, a long-term change or up-leveling of our happiness and our well-being. I mentioned that science a lot, and the studies have shown that mindfulness not only prevents depression, but also positively affects our brain patterns, underlying our day-to-day experiences of anxiety or stress or irritability, as I mentioned, and they dissolve away. And that's not to say that if we have some clinical issues, we don't go see the proper authorities. But I think the run-of-the-mill stuff, can be handled if we have a good meditation practice. So since we get talking about practice in this experience, what does the practice involve in mindful meditation? Well, usually we just sit erect in our chair, hopefully a chair that has a back to it, maybe even a little away from the chair, so that our spine is self-supporting if you're able to do that. And we seek to put our feet flat on the floor, and we lower our gaze or close our eyes. And the most important thing is to focus on our breath. Just breathe naturally as it flows in and it flows out of our body. And just be in touch with the different sensations that we have with each in-breath and each out-breath. So we observe our breath without looking for anything in particular. Just observe it. Be present with it. And like I said, you don't have to change your breathing. Make it natural, but you're just becoming more conscious of what it's like. Inevitably, and I don't know anyone who doesn't have this happen to them, as much as we want to concentrate on our breath for an extended period of time, our mind will start going in all kinds of directions. And that's okay. When it wanders, we just notice, oh, my mind is wandering, and we bring ourselves back to the breath. So we don't give ourselves a hard time. I think when I first was learning Vipassana or mindfulness, I used to get frustrated because my mind just wouldn't stay, focused until my instructor said, hey, no one can hold that for an extended period of time. And the whole idea is just to bring it back, because that is the practice. It wanders, you bring it back. And we don't criticize it, we just accept it. And then eventually, over time, our whole being becomes still like a pond. Or it may not. Either way, it's okay. And even if you get to a point of absolute stillness, it'll probably only be fleeting. Because, just the mind wants to stay busy and it's resisting, but you just keep bringing it back. And if you go through any kind of process and you feel angry or exasperated, you just notice that. Just be aware of it. And whenever something like that happens, just let it be. So we're going to start a practice, and I'll just kind of guide you through it. Just focus on your breath. Let your eyes, lower its gaze. And then we're going to start out with maybe 5 minutes, and then we're going to take a little break, and then we may expand it to 15 minutes. And if it seems too long, that's okay. We'll take a little break, stretch break, and maybe do 20 minutes or so. I remember one time someone said that, well, sometimes when I'm in meditation, I fall asleep. And what could I do about it? And I said, well, maybe you might try a walking meditation. If you find yourself falling asleep, your body's telling you something, and at the same time, you can actually get up and just walk around and watch your breath as you walk around. If you find that issue, you can make it. I haven't tried this before, but we could try it tonight if that's something that works for you. So I'm going to invite everybody just to stand up for a minute if you can, or just to kind of loosen yourself up a little bit before we do our first 5 minutes. I'll ring our little bell. I'll tell you to watch your breath, and if you kind of get off, to get back on the breath. And then after about 5 minutes, we'll take a little stretch break and then do another. So we want to kind of stay in that space and keep the silence there for us. So before I start, does anyone have any questions? If you do, if you raise your hand, if you have any questions or comments before we get started. And I don't see any, but the light's in my eyes, so I may not be seeing anything. So I think we're all good. All right. So let's go ahead and take our seats. Put our feet flat on the floor, kind of back straight, maybe just slightly removed from the back of your chair. And we're going to take initially a 5-minute mindfulness meditation experience. So remember just to breathe naturally. Observe each in-breath and out-breath. Give your attention to it. Observe your breath. Keep your attention on your breath. Focus on each in-breath and each out-breath. If it helps, just observe your abdomen as it rises and falls with each in-breath and each out-breath. If your mind wanders and you lose your focus, just observe that and then come right back on focusing on your breath. Keep your attention on your breath. Focus on your breath. Well, that was about 5 minutes. I know for some people it might feel like 5 hours. But anybody want to share their experience of taking those few moments of focusing on your breath? What was your experience like? Anybody? Yes. Could you? There's one in the back. We're actually recording this, so we're going to use a microphone so it can be heard. Is it already on, Cameron? Don't have to do anything? Okay. It was right there.
Thanks. I thought you were going to say something. So what I noticed is that I decided that whatever I was noticing, I would just call it my focus.
Okay.
And just flow with that and not worry about it and just have a little humor about it instead of being so strict with my mind.
Okay. All right. Anybody else wanted to share their experience? What they felt? Or did they think that this is a crazy idea?
I didn't think it was crazy, but I kept getting pictures that didn't make any sense. And so they would actually float away. And I would just breathe in love, breathe out love, breathe in love, breathe out love. So it was kind of interesting.
Okay.
That's not normally what happens when I meditate.
All right. Any other comments from folks anywhere?
I'll share a little bit.
Sure.
What I found was that my auditory senses became more heightened. I heard the fan, I heard the cars outside, and I had to keep reining myself back in because everything just became more loud.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when we still our minds, we do become more conscious of stuff around us, and then said, oh, the car, siren. Let me bring myself back to my breath. And then something else will come up. Fan, fly, bring it back to the breath. There's someone in the back that had
trying different meditations. One that I kind of liked and worked was downtown in one of the old houses. They had Zen meditation. And you face the wall. You turn and face the wall and then pick a spot. Some imperfection or dust or nick or whatever.
Yes.
And you made that your focus.
Yeah, that's a good approach because it is about developing a certain focus and because meditation is really concentrating on something. Like I said, for us it's the breath. And like you say, the Zen is an object. Some people have a flame that they may look at. Some focus on the mantra that they're speaking, but it's really settling in so we have some focus. Do we have anyone else? If not, we're going to...
I was going to say, as they were saying, the heightened sense of auditory, for me, I feel my body. I feel like I get tinglings. I can feel like my bodysuit, and I get to a point of floaty. But I laughed because the thought that, when you talk about the thought, you would say, focus back on your breath, but I would be like someone else focusing on something else, and then I'd go, no, I don't want to focus on my breath. And then I would get somewhere and I said, don't say that again. Don't do that. I was on somewhere else. And so it was hilarious because I could see myself having this, and for me, that's monkey mind.
Yeah.
I was trying to shut down my monkey mind because it was all good,
Yeah.
but it was funny how you just have this chatter in your
Yeah.
mind. So.
Yeah, so if that comes up, you say, oh, I have this thought, I don't want to focus on my breath, and then I'm going to go right back to my breath, and it's okay. All right, let's take another little quick stretch break because I'm having to do it. We're going to do an extended one, 10 minutes next go around. Thank you. At one point we'll do a whole body meditation. We'll take our minds and go through the sensations that we're feeling from head to toe and back again, I think in one of the sessions before we conclude this. Okay, let's go ahead and take our positions. Your back straight, a little bit off the chair, feet flat down on the floor. And once again, we're going to take 10 minutes this time to focus on our breath, and when our mind wanders, just to come back to it. Keep your attention on your breath. As your abdomen rises and falls with each breath, you can focus on that. Focus on the breath. And as the mind perhaps wanders away, thoughts come up, observe them, and simply come back to the breath. And focus on your breath. Focus on the breath, each in-breath and out-breath. When your mind gets off the breath, just bring it back. Focus on the breath. Your mind wanders to a thought of yesterday or envision for tomorrow. Observe that and then come back to the breath that's here and now. Bring your full attention to your breathing, each breath that goes in and goes out. Concentrate on your breath as it goes in and as it goes out. If, if it startled you a little bit, that means that you're really deep into your meditation. That's what we do now, just, take a stretch break. We're going to go to the restroom, come back. We'll take like 5 minutes. But seek to stay into the silence as you do this. I know for some it may be hard, but just stay into that space, and then we'll come back and we're going to do an extended period of time for like 20 minutes. and I'll ring the bell when it's time to start again. another 15. So we're going to go for a 15-minute period of time to become centered, focused on our breath. If your mind goes off your breath, just simply come back. Give your attention to each in-breath and out-breath. If your mind wanders, come back to your breath. and keep your attention on each in-breath and out-breath. Keep your attention on your breath. When your mind wanders, just come back. Observe where your attention is and just come on back to your breathing. Keep your focus on the breath. When your mind wanders, come on back. Focus on the breath. find yourself thinking about thoughts, past, present, future, observe them and come back on the breath. Focus on your breath. Okay, I see everybody survived. Any particular experiences you had? That was extended when it was about 15 minutes, as I recall. I used to go to I haven't been in a few years, a Buddhist meditation center called, what is it called? Spirit Rock. And it's up in Marin County. Very nice place. I used to go every year and spend a week in, their instruction. They had really great instructors, Buddhist teachers. And we'd have sessions like this, but we'd often be in each session for an hour at a time. And then, mostly silence throughout the whole day. We would we would eat in silence. We all had chores. We'd do the chores in silence. And I tell you, the first couple of days I was there, my mind was going everywhere. I just was ready to scream and leave this place. But interesting thing happened after a couple of days. My mind really got settled. And after about a week, when it was time to leave, I didn't want to go. It had that much of a positive impact on me. And I was living in Florida at the time, so, we drive from Marin to the airport, and I tried to maintain that silence. And then you get back into the world again, and it's a little bit harder to do it. So I think to have a practice where you just do it regularly, you can get back into that space is very helpful. So I invite you, because it's interesting because I've been here in California, and it's only like an hour or two away at the very most. I can remember how far it is, and I haven't been there at all. So, so I have to go back again to one of their events, and I love their teachings. It's a mind, so it gets your mind disciplined, and it kind of also stretches my mind, and then we go back into our meditative sessions, and or sometimes have a counseling session, and that way you can talk. You got a lot to say after being silent for a day. So something worth taking a look at. Or maybe we'll have a SLC meditation retreat somewhere nice. Oh, you like that idea? Okay. Well, we'll have to look at that. Well, let's go ahead and just do a quick stretch, and then I think we'll just end with a 10-minute one. I'm not gonna, and then next week we'll discuss some more aspects of mindfulness. Going through a body meditation and really feeling the sensations and sensing of our bodies, because a lot of times we're so external oriented, we don't stay grounded in ourselves. And I know I get away from it in a while, so I like to come back to this sort of thing from time to time. So, thinking maybe we can, I'll probably stay on the West Coast, but I'd love to go to, how many have been to Unity Village? Anybody?
You've been to Sacramento Buddhist Meditation Group?
Yes, I have.
Sacramento Insight Meditation Center.
Yes.
John Travis, do you know John Travis?
I don't know if I know him.
Senior teacher.
Yes. Okay, well, let's take our positions. We're going to do one more session, a shorter one than the one we just had. But right now, you sound like you're all experts. And we'll just go 10 minutes this time. And I invite you throughout the week to, take a few minutes in the morning and throughout the day, even if it's 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and just center yourself. You'll see how you'll be able to, at least for me, I think the experience that you're able to navigate life and experiences so much better. So the whole idea is to make this a way of life, at least part of your life experiences. Okay, let's go. The last go around for tonight. We once again focus on our breath. Give our attention to each in-breath and out-breath. Keep your attention on your breath. If your mind wanders, just bring it back to the breath. Focus as you breathe in and breathe out. Give your full attention to the breath as it breathes in and breathes out. As your abdomen rises and falls, focus on that. If your mind goes off on a tangent, just observe what you're thinking about, focusing on, and then bring it back and focus on the breath. Focus on each in-breath and out-breath. Keep your attention on the breath. All right, you're all a troopers. You hung in there. A lot better than I did the first time I did this. Oops, sorry. My apologies. Is anyone here for the first time tonight at Spiritual Life Center? I think I recognize almost everybody to the extent I can see you all. Well, thank you for coming in. We actually made this a live stream, so if there's anyone that watches this at any time, you want to donate to Spiritual Life Center, you can do so by texting SLC Love to 44321, or go to our website, slcworld.org, and click the Donate tab, and give you other instructions that you can support this work to help individuals get centered, reduce stress, and go out and just be a positive force in our world. And for those who are here, this is a love offering class, and we invite you to leave a love offering. I think it's in the basket in the foyer. And we're going to call it an evening, and I'll just affirm our prayer for protection. You know, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God unfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Go in peace, and I invite you to just to maintain this consciousness that you've developed in this quietness this evening. Even when you drive home, maybe don't even put on the radio, but just hold that space. And you'll have a really good night's sleep. I guarantee it. Peace to you.